What up, y'all? Appreciate you showing up, hanging out, listening to my dumb ass. Like and subscribe. So, seems like there's more bad news on the PlayStation front, Sony in general, but seems like they had to let go 900 employees. Now, this is on top of losing $10 billion of worth, on top of the UK's court lawsuit against them for another $10 billion. It's not rainbows and unicorns over there at the Pony Palace. Now, I will say that, people losing their job, it's not a good look. It's nothing to be like, ha ha. That's not what this is about. This was about, like I've said before, I've said it in many videos, it's about the health of the industry. And when Sony is sitting here acting like, oh, they're the king of the world, they're on top of the world because they sold a bunch of consoles, but everything else is falling down around them. And then most people that are in this industry, or most people who are enthusiasts, know that consoles are a loss. They, except for Nintendo, they tend not to lose money on their consoles, but it's not a great margin, a profit margin on consoles, on hardware. Most of the profit is on games. And of course, the way that Sony was making games, not a lot of profit. So they kind of put themselves in a really bad situation, because it's like, oh, we're going to sell our consoles at a loss for a couple of years, and then, oh, we're finally making money, yay. And then they're making games that are not at a loss, but they're not making enough money on those games, The profits aren't super huge. So it's like, what are y'all doing? It's weird, but, that's the nature of the Sony business. I'm not sure, what they can do to fix it or whatever, but I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about, oh, this is not the time to console war, blah, blah, blah. But I would say that the problem with that is that doesn't apply to PlayStation. That doesn't apply to the ponies, because the ponies will console war all day long when Microsoft announces layoffs, right? So what's the difference? Why shouldn't we console war as well? Why shouldn't we say, oh boy, look how Sony's failing. Oh boy, look at all this stuff. Oh boy. Why shouldn't we say that? Since it was what they did. The wed wagon, as some say. He did it. And now Sony announced this thing. All he did was retweet the PlayStation blog thing or whatever it was, the Sony email jammy. That's all he did. But before, when it was Microsoft, there was a bunch of stuff he wanted to say. He said it all. Big long post with a bunch of words. Microsoft did this, blah, 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 blah. Xbox did this, blah, 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 right? Didn't even say nothing. He didn't even say nothing. Just repost. Hypocrisy, Xbox tax, all these things. And it doesn't help the industry for individuals like him to act like that, to push an agenda or narrative, and a narrative against Xbox, when you should be rising all of the players if they deserve it, of course. And I would say they're all equal. They're all equally big corporations. Of course, some are bigger than others, but they're all in the same game to make money. So you filleting Sony doesn't help Sony, because they had to let go 900 people today, or whenever it was. And the funny thing about that is, like, yeah, the US ones, y'all are gone. Out. Peace out, homies. UK and everywhere else, we'll have to get with the parliament, and we'll have to get with the regulators, and we'll see what's going on, and blah, blah, blah. They're still going to lose their jobs. Okay, let's be real. Because $10 billion doesn't magically recoup itself from goodwill and praise and prayers. So, yeah, they're in trouble. And, people are like, oh no, it's Alex says, oh, there's going to be another not shrinkage, but I mean, there'll be a shrinkage. There is a shrinkage going on, but he said there's going to be another. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I had to talk about Sony. It's so tiring. He said there was going to be another crash. That's what he said. I disagree with that. There isn't. I mean, if you want to count Sony's failings and their shrinkage as a crash, sure. But overall, no, it's not gonna be a crash. Are you kidding me? Look at the numbers that Xbox is doing. Besides, look at the Pal World, Minecraft, all these games. There's like 10 games that Microsoft has that are doing over 1 million people easy. Over 1 million sales. Minecraft is the most sellingest game in the history of video games. Come on, son. So no, video games aren't going anywhere. Just like they didn't really go anywhere back in the day. Atari crashed. You could say that the U.S. market kind of crashed, but video games didn't crash. Nintendo came in, Sega came in, and the funny thing is they were in existence before. Well, at least Sega was. And the funny thing is the Sega console was manufactured by Sony, I believe. Was it MSX? Was that a Sony console? Or was it I'm confusing and conflating some things. The SG-1000 was the predecessor to the Master System. But I believe there was a one before the SG-1000. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm tired and I'm confused and stuff. But anyway, this is an indication, look, ponies and donkey unicorns, they're not going to say anything. They're not going to report on this. They're not going to do it because they're scared. They're cowards. And they don't want to admit to the fact that Sony is a failing company right now. They are failing big time. Big time. I seen in my comics somebody's like, oh yeah, their stock is already back up to 90 or over 100 or something. I was like, okay. Well, it was pounds, so it was less in dollars, so it's probably the same, right? 80 something. And I was like, look, look, the stock is going to go up and down. That's fine. They lost 10 billion. Okay, will they get it back in a minute? No, they won't. And they have that lawsuit, the UK lawsuit. That's another 10 billion. I thought it was more than that. Or is it 10? I don't know. See, I'm confusing numbers now, but besides, it's like there's no like bright spots on the PlayStation side except Helldivers is okay. Will it be a long-term success for them? I don't know about that. In the next game, Final Fantasy Rebirth, that'd be cool. But can it make them $10 billion? No. So all of these things are happening over there, and it's just like nope. And bottom line, everyone should be concerned about the health of the industry because that's what we love. Even if Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony went out of the industry altogether, you still have third parties like Sega and all these other companies that are like, well, what do we do? What do we do? And I think there's still room for, we still have PC, obviously. And if consoles go away, PC will never go away because PC is an integral part of everyday life outside of video games. So imagine the console market destroyed, no more consoles ever, nothing. You get a PC. And I don't think that'll ever happen because there'll always be like a company that'll be like, oh, this is a PC, but it's a console. It's like kind of like what the Steam machine was supposed to be, but the Steam Deck turned into. And so maybe it'll all be mainly handheld consoles or something like that, There's always there's never going to be a time where video games are like dead like that, Arcades are different because they were a very niche kind of business model because you had to spend thousands of dollars on this machine, put it in your place, and then recoup it back on the quarters and such, all the plays. So that's a totally different business model. Now they have Arcade 1-Up, which is emulation, which is not as good as the original arcades. arguably. You can do some stuff to make some MAME cabinets or facsimiles of arcades. I mean, some people are purists and they want the boards and they want the CRTs and all that stuff. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't need that. So there's things to do when it comes to preserving video games, whether it's arcades, whether it's console games, all these things. And just today, I think I saw Nintendo was suing whoever made the emulator for the Switch. So we'll see how that goes. But those things are necessary because Nintendo's not going to have a Switch 100 years from now. Compatibility. Like, can you play Super Mario Brothers, the cartridge, on your Nintendo Switch? Of course not. It's a totally different. It's not compatible. Is it available on the Switch digitally? Probably. I would say yeah. But that's at a cost, and that's at the cost of their servers. Like, can you download it locally on a little Switch card or SD card or something and play it offline? I don't know. I don't know how the Switch works. I would say that would be a good look. And I think that's what needs to happen. Like, generally in the industry, there needs to be kind of a movement or maybe some legislation that goes through that says, if you buy a game, a digital game, you can have one copy saved locally on your hard drive that has the ability to play offline. Simple, right? I mean, if you're playing it not connected to the internet, why do you need authentication? I mean, they do that so that, to stave off piracy, but at a certain point, 10 years, 20 years later, why are you pirating? And if people are pirating a game and it's that popular, why don't you just put it in your store to sell again? I don't know, man. It's a bunch of different crazy stuff going on, and I don't have the solution to all the things that these corporations are trying to protect themselves against. It's mainly piracy. Let's be real. Everybody's scared, especially Nintendo. They don't want nobody taking their games, pirating. And I'm like, all right, that's cool, but how about you make the games more easily available for purchase on PC, let's say. Like, if I got a PC, I want to make myself a Nintendo PC so I can play all the games on there. Make your own PC client so we can play your games on PC. How about that? It's about preservation of the games themselves and also the history. And at the same time, you can still have certain checks and balances within that app, your Nintendo app on PC, that will prevent piracy. Let's just say that. Let's just say every game that you sell has a unique digital barcode or whatever ID, and so that ID is tied to your whatever Nintendo account, and there you go. And so if it doesn't match, then you can't play it or something. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know, man. I mean, and that's just like the small, like, businessy stuff. That's not even like the stuff we're talking about as far as layoffs and all that stuff, which is, the ebb and flow of the industry. And the funny thing I saw today, it wasn't funny, but the Fable Playground Games, basically, they reached out to the internet and on Twitter and said, yo, it sucks. So I'm paraphrasing. I was like, yo, I know you guys are having a rough time over there, Sony, but we're looking for people from Fable. We're looking for people for Forza Horizon 6, I think they said, or something. And I said, give us a shot, hit us up. Let's go. We're looking for people. And I'm like, that's good. That's what's up, man. When one door closes, there's always studios, fortunately, that are looking for talent. And the fact that Microsoft Playground, they're in the position to offer jobs is cool, because they're trying to build up a couple of games there. And I know Microsoft laid off a bunch of people, but once again, I don't know why Sony waited so long to do their layoff thing. But I said it before. I said, yo, it's only a matter of time. I think I said last video or the video before. I said, look, if Microsoft is laying off these people, all these people are laying off people. It's a bunch of. outside of video games, a bunch of, I think UPS laid off 17,000 people. It's like, it's crazy. It's all pandemic layoffs, right? And Sony's quiet. Sony's quiet. They're not saying nothing. Oh, look how many consoles we sold. They're real quiet, right? And now this hits. And what do people say? Oh, this is not the time. This is a console war. I'm like, y'all need to shut up, okay? Because the ponies and the donkey unicorns console war all day long. When it comes to Sony, oh, you can't say nothing bad. What is that? That's some bullshit right there. And it's just like, look, I'm tired of it, honestly. Red Dragon and freaking Reforged Gaming and all these other donkey unicorns, the other flip floppers. What is their names? I'm forgetting their names because they're so inconsequential. Maybe they flipped. I thought about this. Maybe they flipped in order to get more traction. Maybe they weren't getting enough traction. They were seeing less growth in their channels and such. And like, well, if we flip, we can get some ponies. And then, like most people like me, I don't unsubscribe, but I might for Peter Ovo because they're not saying anything special. They're just like, wah, wah, wah. That's what it sounds like. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, Xbox, wah, wah, wah. That's what it sounds like to me. So I'm like, why are you crying? Why? What is all the crying? Why? And so with their treachery, not treachery, but they're flippity floppies. Do we listen to them? Do we listen to Tim Dog? People are like, oh, I like Tim Dog. I'm gonna still follow you, even though you're a pony now, or something. They're like, oh, I'm not into console wars anymore. I'm disappointed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? And it wasn't even that serious. Like what's going on isn't even that serious, as far as like Xbox and Halo's not going over there, Gears of War's not going over there. All these games that people were scared to go in aren't going as of today, as of yet. But still, they jumped the gun and they were like, and they cried so loud that they can't take it back because the damage is already done. They've already ruined anything. I tend to believe that one should make sure they have as much information as possible before they go and, talk some shite or flippity flop or do whatever, because it might not be what you think it is. Anyway, I'm sorry. This is kind of a somber video. Mainly because, 900 people lost their jobs, but also, once again, you got to look at Sony for what they are. They are a very fallible corporation that's been making the wrong moves for a minute. And everything that they're doing now is an indication of that. They even, like I said before, they raised prices on everything. They still had to fire over 900, or let's say 900 people. It's probably over 900 people. 8% of their workforce. And I'm like, look, you could brag about how many consoles you sold. It doesn't change the fact that 900 people lost their jobs because y'all don't know how to run your business correctly. Y'all are paying too much for these games. Y'all are doing this and that. That is totally mismanagement. And now people say, well, Microsoft had to fire 8% of their workforce too. Like, yeah, that's true. But Microsoft was also making more profit than Sony. And I would guarantee you that if Sony wasn't blowing all their money on these goofy movie games, that they wouldn't have to fire that many people. Tangent. Moving to movies. I was watching a video today. I totally forgot the dude's name. Hopefully I'll put it in the comments. But he had a lawyer on basically, and they were talking about the Marvel situation. This is a Sony related thing. Marvel has been trying for a long time to buy back the rights to Spider-Man. And Sony doesn't have nothing to do with it, right? And so remember when there was a kind of Tom Holland might not be in the MCU anymore, blah, 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 a couple of years ago? That was Marvel being like, yo, we need a bigger cut because this, I think it was like 5%. It was some low percentage of the box office that Marvel got, and Sony got the rest. And the thing was, Sony was paying for the actual production, I believe. Marvel was making the actual movies, right? So Sony paid for the production, Marvel the creatives. And Marvel was like, nah, we own the IP. We should get a little bit more than 5%. So Marvel went back for 50-50. Get 50-50 box office. Sony was like, nah, we out. And then it was a backlash online. And people were like, oh my gosh, la, 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 la. And so Sony went back to the table, said, all right, 25%. Marvel said, all right, fine, whatever. The thing is, Madam Web is a hot trash fire turd of a movie. Not my words. I paraphrase it, of course, but people don't like it. It's got 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a hot trash movie. An indication of the creative bankruptciness of of Sony. They can't make a decent Spider-Man movie. Since they got rid of Sam Raimi, they pretty much blew that. Spider-Man 3, they ruined it. Because Sam Raimi was like, nah, we don't need Venom. We don't need this. This is too much. And they were like, put him in. All the Sony reps, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they forced Sam Raimi to make a movie he didn't want to make, and it was trash. And now Marvel is kind of in the position where they're looking at Madam Web and they're like, yo, Sony is kind of damaging our brand, because the thing is that people go to see Madam Web and they think it's a Marvel movie, and it's not a Marvel movie. It's a Sony movie, and people don't know the difference. And so they're going to see all these Spider-Man adjacent movies thinking they're Marvel movies, and they're not. And they're like, I don't want to see no more Marvel. I'm superhero fatigue. I don't want to see these trash movies anymore. These are garbage. How can this movie be made by the same movie who made the Avengers? Sony is ruining the reputation of Marvel. So Marvel kind of has a possibility of going to court to sue Sony to get the rights back to Spider-Man, because they are damaging the brand, the Spider-Man brand. And there's a distinction between Peter Parker Spider-Man and the adjacent characters. I mean, they could probably get most of the adjacent characters back and maybe not Spider-Man, but they can still say, yeah, Spider-Man 2, because they were making the Spider-Man movies. And also, Sony is trying to pressure Marvel into hurrying up the production of this next Spider-Man, Spider-Man 4 or whatever. And because Sony's broke, obviously 10 billion minus 10 billion minus, all the lawsuits and all the, devaluation and stuff. And so like Marvel's like, you can't rush the genius. You can't rush it, buddy. And so like if Sony gets their way, they rush the movie, it'll probably be hot trash, right? If Marvel gets their way, they release the movie whenever they release it. Sony's hurting a little bit because Also, what can happen if Marvel takes Sony to court, they can actually put in, I think it's an injunction or whatever, that dictates that Sony cannot make a movie while this proceeding is going on. So they're on hold. They can't do nothing until this whole thing is settled, what could be years. And that's cutting into the budget. But they've been losing money on these movies because they suck. Anyway, I'm sorry. A little bit of a movie tangent, but that's another indication of the overall health of Sony itself, And the movie stuff is important as well. But anyway, I appreciate you hanging out. Like and subscribe. It's getting dark. My Trailer Bailey is in a coma right now, so I'm waiting for some assistance. But actually, I'm just going to switch out the ignition switch where it's in my pocket. It's right here. Boop. Gonna switch this out. Hopefully that's it. Yeah. I didn't plan on switching ignition switches in the parking lot, but what you gonna do? Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Anyway, appreciate y'all hanging out. Like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments below what you think about Sony's minus 900 employees. What does that look like? What do you think about Sony right now? Why are they so quiet about it? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, the influencers, obviously. Yeah, man. Just let me know what y'all think. And I appreciate y'all. And I'll check you out on the next one. Till the way.